Not only is it Friday, you're free, you're you, which means you're awesome. It's another chance to live your life your way. Thanks for finding me. Welcome to it, everybody. Hope you have an awesome weekend. But before we get to that, we're going to talk about some stuff going on. Some of it's horrific. We'll get a little bit into that, what we know about that horrific New York City helicopter crash and what it means going on from here. We'll spend a lot of time on it, but boy, you probably saw the video on that. That was horrific. New information came out about that overnight and then into today. We'll talk about that. But we also got to talk about the SAVE Act. That's right. And I'm going to tell you the telltale sign on how you know a crooked politician. I don't care whether they're Democrat or Republican. I don't care because there are crooks on both sides. It's not even about left or right anymore. Democrat, Republican, who the hell cares? I'll tell you the exact sign to look for when you know somebody's a crook and they're trying to cheat an election. Because there's only one reason not to want or require voter ID in this country for elections. That should be the bare minimum. There's only one reason, and that's to cheat an election. That's simplistic. That's common sense, but common sense is in rare supply these days. But I'll tell you exactly what to look for and who's opposing it. Watch out for those people. But we'll lighten it up. I promise you, because you know what else is going on? The Masters is going on. That's right. On the lush green course of the Masters in Augusta, Georgia. Well, usually it's pretty boring. I'm with you there. But a couple of incredible stories came out of the Masters already this year. The first one was a golfer who, well, what are you going to do? You're in the middle of your round and you got to pee. What do? You go in the creek. We'll talk about him. His response was amazing, though. We'll talk about that, as well as Gary Player. You know who that is? The old guy. He's in his 90s now. Former Masters champion. They always invite the old guys back. He had some of the most incredible life advice and his approach to life. And he said in an interview yesterday that I absolutely love. We'll get to that too. But first and foremost, thanks for being here. All the socials, just look for Wicked Wisdom with Bill Adams on YouTube and Facebook page. And then wherever you like to get your audio podcasts and all that good stuff. And like always, Wicked Wisdom, the live stream, usually every single day as we get here. Let's get right to it. All right, we'll start off with the horrific news about that New York City chopper crash. I'm sure you saw the story about that or the video. You saw the blade falling down into the Hudson and then the crash. It was horrific. Here's what we know so far. Here's a little bit of audio I dug up. A witness and an aviation expert talking about what they saw.
So I just happened to be walking and I heard like an engine just dying. And it was like, do, 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 do. And I just turned, I looked and I saw the helicopter crash and splash into the water.
Well, it appears to me from the video that there was some sort of catastrophic flight control malfunction where the main rotor blade and head and the tail rotor blade assembly departed the aircraft in flight.
Departed the aircraft, all right. So did these poor people. So here's what we know overnight anyway, as it crashed to the Hudson. The pilot, obviously, and a family visiting from Spain. So it was a tourist trip, around New York City, and they go around, they look at the skyline, and just absolutely awful. And you tend to look at a story like this and you say, well, there's no preparing for that. I mean, what else are you going to do with that? And I agree with you. I mean, you can't live your life in fear. And I know a lot of people see all of these recent airplane problems. We have heard about a lot of chopper crashes. You can't live your life in fear and not take advantage of great opportunities and experiences, right? But I would expect this coming forward. The maintenance investigation that's going to be in the news stories about this, and rightfully so, are going to be intense about all of this stuff because it really is true. We've never heard about so many aviation crashes for small planes, problems. We all remember the Boeing stories and problems like this with a tourist helicopter. So, it really is up to all of us to demand those investigations, to demand the maintenance stories, that maintenance records are kept up. And because this sounds like exactly what that turned into. One of the blades fell off and fell into the water, and then the engine died and it crashed. And all these people are gone now. So you can't live in fear. You got to refuse to live your life like that. But also, I think we can all demand better aviation safety and standards for sure. At every single level, tourist helicopter, small planes, private planes, commercial airliners. I think we all deserve that. But God, hearts and prayers out to those people. That's just horrific. All right, let's get out of that. Nothing much more to say about that. Let's talk about the SAVE Act. That's right. Voter integrity, securing elections. Should be common sense, right? Oh, no. It's not common sense at all because there's been such a pushback against it to secure our elections and to require what should be the bare minimum, scraping the bottom of the barrel, be able to prove that you're a citizen of this country. And yet there's opposition to that, as you well know by now. But the SAVE Act did pass the House yesterday. And now, of course, it goes on to the Senate. They'll debate the hell out of that. And then hopefully goes on to the president's desk. And he's going to sign this thing. but to describe exactly what it does, right? Exactly. Let's go to the very boring but very informative C-SPAN lady to explain exactly what's going on.
And a final passage vote now on requiring in-person proof of citizenship when registering to vote in federal elections.
Yeah.
The bill also requires states to remove non-citizens from their existing voter rolls and allows lawsuits against election officials who register people without proof of U.S. citizenship.
Passed without objection. The motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Passed, right? I mean, this is one of those bipartisan things. It's got support. You see poll after poll, even Democrats support this. It's something like close to 65, 70% national support. So everybody in the House obviously supported this, right? Even Democrats, I mean, for God and country, they supported this, right? No. You know the answer to that one. No. Every excuse in the book they came up with to oppose this. Of course, along party lines, every single Democrat in the House opposed it. Why? You know why? It sounds simplistic. It sounds like it's just the most basic explanation of why anybody would oppose this, but it's the God's honest truth. There's one reason, and there's one reason only, and this is the absolute truth, why you would oppose voter ID for election, federal, state, or local, because you want to cheat an election. There's no other reason why. It's always been the case. It always will be the case, and that's exactly what they're doing. But this time around, in preparation for debating the SAVE Act, they came up with some beauties. So here's the reasoning why, and this is the telltale sign. They all crooked politicians. I don't care whether they're Republican or Democrat. I don't give a shit anymore. I don't care, right? Because there are people who love this country, and there are crooks. That's it. And I don't care whether there's an R or a D next to your name. Don't care. Red, blue, I don't care. Judge people on their words, and there are telltale signs for people who want to cheat elections, and it is this. This is the number one. Well, it's already illegal, so there's no need for legislation. And they're all saying it. Seth Mouton, he's a representative from Massachusetts, which has been going through troubles recently, right? He was one of the leaders saying this. He wrote a big post on X yesterday. The reason why I'm doing this is because we don't need any more legislation, any more red tape, right? It's already illegal, so this is silly. Yes, Seth, it's already illegal. We know that. But it's happening. Do you see the problem? Well, of course they see the problem. But anybody that says that, anybody, personal life, elected officials, people in the media, anybody that says we don't need to provide voter ID to vote in elections, local, state, or federal, is trying to cheat an election. It's the only reason why. And it's the God's honest truth that you can count on. But they came up with another one. They came up with more reasoning for this one to oppose it. Here's a California representative, I don't know her name, but they all parroted the same exact thing. She says it disenfranchises people, and you'd actually need more proof of ID to vote in this. Here she is. Now, here's just a small example of her reason.
California.
Thank you. Thank you, Ranking Member Morelli. I rise in strong opposition to the so-called SAVE Act, a bill that is a modern-day poll tax targeting American women and low-income Americans. This bill bans voter ID. It bans using driver's licenses as voter ID unless they're backed by additional proof of citizenship.
Oh. Here's what she went on to say. Ready for this one? As a woman, this is a female representative from the state of California. She says women are particularly targeted by this because they wouldn't be able to provide secondary ID if it came to that. And neither would illegals. Is that not the most insulting thing you've ever heard? There's not, I went through this ever since this bill came up, and I tried to think, I wonder how you could exist in the country without ID. I think it would be harder to function unless you never left your house. I think it would be harder to function and not have ID. It's almost impossible in the modern age to not have an acceptable form of ID. It's impossible. But they're actually trying to make the argument that some people can't get it. Well, you know who couldn't legally? People who shouldn't be voting in elections. But this argument that women are particularly targeted, I would be so pissed off as a woman. That is the most insulting, demeaning, degrading thing, and it's flat out wrong. As opposed by, here's another Congresswoman, but she's from Illinois, Mary Miller. Here's what she said about that.
All we hear are the Democrats sharing their concerns that rural Americans, women, and people of color are not capable of getting an ID. This is insulting, condescending, and an untrue argument.
It is. I would be so mad if anybody made that argument against me. You know, it's supposed to be, and the Democrats in particular are always said we're with a party of building up women, women hearing me roar, feminism, I'm a feminist. And yet when it comes time to secure our elections, which most of the country agrees with, you're saying that women would have a hard time with this bill, with this law? Get the hell out of town with this, crooks. So the takeaway is, whenever you hear anybody say that this is already legal, so we don't need any more legislation, ignore them, because they're crooks and they want to cheat elections. It's really that simple. All right, that's all I'm going to say about that. Let's hope that, and pay very close attention to anybody, any political party, for anybody that opposes this, because they're trouble. And they're either compromised, they're being blackmailed, or they're absolute crooks. No other reason why. That's all there is. It's that simple. All right, let's get to some good stuff. You know what else is going on? Full disclosure, I don't usually pay that much attention to the Masters. I think it's cool. It's a great golf tournament. I love the tradition. It's really nice. You know, they're kind of like independent. Like, they do a good job of like holding on to their tradition. Like they don't want a lot of change. Years ago, this might have been 15 years ago? There was a TV dispute with CBS and they didn't want to pay so-and-so. They just said, I thought this was so cool. The Masters said, oh, we don't need you. We'll start our own network. They don't want to be messed with. Sometimes they go a little bit too overboard with their traditions. Sometimes they're a little bit too stuffy, but, you know, the integrity of the game and all that other stuff. But I think it's cool, whatever. So that's underway, and it'll follow up all the way through the weekend. And they have all kinds of side events with the Masters, as I've learned. They have they let caddies compete, which is kind of cool. They have a Pro-Am day where amateur golfers get to compete. And then they bring back some of the legends who have already won. They have their green jackets when they win, and they get to speak and, interact. And it's kind of a cool event. It's a great American tradition, which is why I like it. Am I going to sit down and watch the Masters all weekend long? Absolutely not. But I think it's cool that it's there. But sometimes, every once in a while, you get some great stories, some funny stories out of the Masters. There was a couple for this year's. There's a golfer. He's an amateur. His name is Jose Luis Ballester. It might be Ballester. I might be mispronouncing his name, whatever. So he's in the amateur tournament. And I don't know what hole it was, but he's going on and he's like, listen, you can't mess around. You can't call a timeout. You gotta go because there's people behind you who want to play through. Well, he ran into a little bit of trouble. I think we can all relate to this, even though he's a younger guy than most of us. He had to pee. There's no other way to say it. He had to pee. So and you can see the picture of this thing, not him peeing, but there's a creek by the section of Augusta National where he happened to be. And he said, well, there's nobody around. I got to go. There's nothing else I can do. I can't walk back. I'll just go pee in the creek. As soon as he's getting ready to do his business, spectators saw him. The cameras caught him. And he was like, what are you going to do midstream? Literally at that point. So he owned up to it. I love the guy's answer, and you got to kind of wait till the end. He's got a pretty thick accent, but at the end, what he says is the best possible attitude in a situation like this. Because really, what are you going to do?
The greatest gift bestowed upon a man.
That's Gary Player. We're going to get to him in a second. Hold on. But because what he did was he went, and then he didn't shy away from the interview. Because let's face it, he's an amateur golfer, right? Number one. And they wanted to ask him about this. He sees it as a media opportunity. He wasn't going to shy away from that, from the cameras. The guy's trying to make a name for himself. So when they asked him about no other reason, not his golf game, where he's from, what he's all about, they asked him about the peeing incident. He owned up to it.
I completely forgot that we had those restrooms on the left of the tee box. Didn't really know where to go. And since JT had an issue around the green, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to sneak here in the river. Probably the people would not see me that much. And then they clapped for me. Probably one of the clubs that I really got today, like real loud. So that was kind of funny. I mean, it was not embarrassing at all for me. So if I had to do it again, I would do it again.
If I had to do it again, I'd do it again. What are you going to do? The guy had to pee. They caught him. What am I going to do? Pretend like I wasn't there? I love this guy's attitude. And I don't know. There's something about it. There's already been reaction. It's like, oh, that's sacrilegious. How can you do that at the hallowed Augusta National Golf Course? Oh, come on. The guy had to pee and it's a creek. Give him a break. I'm sure other people have done it. The guy just got caught. Whatever. My Scottish grandmother had a saying, wherever you be, let your pee go free. That's the way it is. And the guy said, he said, yeah, it was me, whatever. And you know what? He doubles down, and I would do it again. Now, if he had been a dope about the whole thing and groveled and apologized, and I'm so sorry, it would have been stupid. But the guy had a great attitude about it and made everybody laugh. I love it. So good for you, Jose Luis. I think your name is Ballester? I don't know. Maybe I Americanized it. There was another thing, and you heard a little bit of that because I pressed the wrong button. Gary Player is another golfer. Again, I'm no golf aficionado. I'm not that big into it. I really can't golf at all, so I don't watch it. But I know he's a legend, and he's older now. He's in his 90s, right? And he wants to live to 100. The reporter at his press thing is always bring back the old legends to the Masters, and they always ask them exactly what, they think about different things. And somebody led into this with a great question because he's really good friends with Tiger Woods. And the guy asked the question. They said, Tiger Woods, a couple of years ago, when his first Masters, he said he was eating Arby's every day. Gary, you're in great shape and you're old. When was the last time you had fast food? And Gary goes, well, you're not going to live to as old as I am eating crap. I'll tell you that much. But then he goes into a bunch of life advice. And it started off sad. And he was talking about how he lost his wife. But at the age of 90, got himself a hot young chick. And it's keeping him going. And he's got a goal of living to 100. And what he said should be an inspiration to everybody. So many of us live in fear every single day. This guy, despite being old, despite suffering the loss of his wife, he kept on living. And that's the lesson for everybody.
The greatest gift bestowed upon a man or woman is life. And so my ambition is to reach 100. So I went to India and I met a gerontologist, and he gave me 11 things to work on, which I adhere to. And so I might drop dead tomorrow, but I'm giving it a hell of a try.
How great is that, right? We all may drop dead tomorrow, but we're going to give it a hell of a try. That's how you live. Don't live this life in fear. Live it like Gary Player. Is it easier with a lot of Gary Player money? Yeah, I'll give you that. But still, maybe he got to that point because he's got that attitude. I absolutely love that. That's our first takeaway. Never live in fear. Live with gusto. Take out of this life everything you want out of it. And the second one, and this is way more important, anybody that opposes voter ID wants to cheat an election. That is tried and true, and it'll always be true. That's your takeaway heading into the weekend. But make it a great weekend, right? Live your life and enjoy it. Have a great time. And while you're doing that, find the replay of Wicked Radio right here on X, and you can find Wicked Wisdom with me. Working on some interviews I think you're going to like for life solutions going forward throughout here that'll be on the very same format. Wicked Wisdom with Bill Adams on YouTube and Facebook and on the audio podcast, wherever you like to get those, whatever platform you prefer. So with that said, live your life. Have a wicked awesome weekend, and we'll talk to you Monday.